will find a path, cause we chose this lane. We moving with the team, we do it all together. It's another journey, it's another chapter. But we are ready, we are born for this mission. So we execute with force until it completes the vision. This is prime time, this is victory. We are the chosen ones, we're making history. We'll show you what we got, give everything we have. Every sweat, blood and tear, every last breath. We put up a fight until the last man, until the last day, until our last dance. We are here giving everything and more. To seize the opportunity, you know that we will score.
So, hi, how are you guys? Good to see you tonight. For some reason, I am not hearing any of my sound coming from anything, which is kind of weird. Oh well. Oh well. I didn't hear any of the music. I didn't hear any of the but as long as you could hear the movie and everything that I did, good. Linda, hi, welcome. Nice to have you here. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And it is, I know we probably are not going to get a lot of people here because that DNC is amazing going on right now. And it is quite the event and pretty exciting to watch so far. So you're 5x5. Oh, my square size. That's okay. Anyway, I have some stories tonight, and it is next week is the 61st anniversary of the March on Washington and a whole lot of things. And with stuff going on, I found some books and stories that kind of go with that because I wanted to share these, and they're wonderful stories and a great couple of books that I found, and I'm excited that you guys get to hear them with me. This is very odd because it feels like hold on. Let me see something. That's up. Sure. Hang on, let me just check. MB7 output. That's off. Oh. Yeah, maybe that's it. Oh. Try this. Is that better? Yay. Does that sound kind of echoey to you? Okay, good. I'm going to turn that back. All right. Anyway, so let me know if anything goes weird on or echo or a slapback or anything like that, because I turned on an audio monitor just to see if that sounds a little more realistic in my ears, because I was literally like I was dead in my headphones and everything, and that's just so strange. Okay, yay. So I'm going to go through these stories, and I know that Gabby is speaking tonight, and Bob's taping it so that I can go back and watch when she speaks. I always love watching. She's a good friend of my cousin's, and I just admire her greatly, and just everybody that's going there tonight. But so tonight I have 3 stories if we get through them, and they're very cool. And if we make it through 2 of them instead of all 3, then the last one can wait. But the first 2 specifically, in commemoration of 61 years ago with the March on Washington and a little bit of history. So I have a nonfiction and a fiction for you, but the fiction is based on the author's experience with his mom. So we're going to go to this first one here, and I'm going to pull that up, and we're going to go to this first. Well, if I can get things back to where they're supposed to be. There, I have my scenes in the wrong spot. See what happens? Patty came today. So that's my excuse. Patty came over today, and she got to see the studio. It was fun. She was very excited. Yay! So yes, it has, Linda. Oh my gosh. So here we go. This is the first thing. This is the book Unstoppable that I'm going to share, and it is by the illustrations are by Brittany Jackson, um, also known as B. She loves telling stories through her art, from dynamic and diverse character design to delightfully funny and energetic children's book illustration. She attended the College for Creative Studies and the grand prize winner of the L. Ron Hubbard's Illustrator of the Future Award of 2007. With over 15 years of experience as a freelance illustrator, Brittany works in a variety of styles. Her portfolio here shows her work, and Be Gifted illustration is just an amazing. I mean, look at these. Look at these. So, but she is the illustrator, I believe, of this first one that I'm going to read. Yes. And it's by Michael G. Long. And he has a PhD from Emory University and is the author and editor of a lot of books on nonviolent protest, civil rights, and LGBTQ plus rights. His books for children include Call Him Jack, the story of Jackie Robinson, Black Freedom Fighter, and picture book Unstoppable, how Bayard Rustin organized the March on Washington. And that is the book I'm reading tonight. Unstoppable. Oh, it's amazing how Bayard Rustin organized the 1963 March on Washington. And just need to get this here. Oops, what happened? Get back up there. There we go. All right. This was what the demands that were laid out for the March on Washington. Let's see. I'm going to turn it to double. Bayard Rustin was a troublemaker. Bayard grew up in Westchester, Pennsylvania, where white business owners and city officials wanted to separate Black and white people in places like elementary schools, restaurants, and movie theaters. But Bayard didn't care. In high school, he sat in the white section of the town's main movie theater. The police arrested him, even though there were no laws requiring segregation. A few years later, he was arrested again, this time for sitting next to white people on a bus. Bayard was making trouble for good reason. He wanted to change the laws and customs that kept Black people from living freely. Bayard wasn't the only one challenging unjust laws. As an adult, Bayard lived in New York City near his mentor, A. Philip Randolph, who had long fought for the rights of Black workers. Throughout the 1940s and 1950s, they shared their dreams of freedom. They dreamed of schools where Black and white children could learn together. They dreamed of good, safe jobs that paid well. They dreamed of decent homes and being treated with respect and dignity. There were powerful people and forces determined to keep their dreams from coming true. So Bayard and Mr. Randolph would have to fight. Bayard was a peaceful man. How could he fight without being violent? And how could he make enough trouble to shake the whole nation? Bayard was inspired by a man named Mohandas Gandhi, also a troublemaker, fighting for freedom. Gandhi took on the entire British Empire, using rallies, strikes, and marches to free India from British rule. His most famous protest was a massive march to the Indian Ocean that received worldwide attention. This march inspired people across the globe to protest for their own rights. We can march too, Bayard thought. In 1962, Mr. Randolph and Bayard imagined the largest march for civil rights that the United States had ever seen. Bayard had already organized many protests against war, nuclear weapons, racial segregations in public schools, and racial discrimination in businesses. Now he would lead a civil rights protest to the doorstep of the United States government. Bayard and Mr. Randolph called it the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. The march would demand that politicians end discrimination by passing laws without delay. They wanted immediate action that could be felt everywhere in the country. If it worked, the march would be a massive victory for the civil rights movement. It was a great plan, but Bayard faced a big challenge. Powerful people and forces who did not want Black equality threatened to destroy the movement. Some white politicians attacked Bayard for many things, including being gay. Bayard was living with a man in a time when it was illegal to live and love as he pleased. Some civil rights leaders worried the attacks on Bayard would harm the fight for Black freedom. They didn't want him to be part of the fight. But Bayard was proud of who he was: Black, gay, and an activist for peace. Bayard feared his dream was over. Other movement leaders, including future Congressman John Lewis and Martin Luther King, strongly disagreed. They admired Bayard and believed his planning skills were too valuable to lose. They made sure Bayard was the main organizer of the march. There was no time to celebrate. The March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom was only 8 weeks away. Bayard and his staff of over 200 volunteers got to work. They called newspaper offices, television stations, families and schools, churches and synagogues, labor unions, and community groups. They organized travel on buses, trains, and planes to bring people from all over the country. They built first aid stations, made lunches, and even rented 200 portable toilets. No detail escaped Bayard's attention. One of Bayard's main goals was to educate protesters about nonviolent fighting. Black protesters in the United States had faced horrible violence. Bayard wanted everyone to be prepared for the worst, and he didn't want them to hit back. Instead of making fists, they would hold signs about freedom. Instead of kicking, they would walk from the Washington Monument to the Lincoln Memorial. Instead of shouting ugly names, they would sing beautiful songs. On August 28, 1963, Bayard woke up early and walked to the Washington Monument. Only a few hundred marchers had arrived. Bayard was scared that people might not come. His worries soon disappeared. By 9:30 a.m., 40,000 people were ready to march. Then there were 90,000. The protesters kept coming. The excitement kept building. By the time the march began, about 250,000 people had arrived. They wanted to vote with their footsteps and raise their voices so loud that the president himself would have to answer. And with these brave protesters, Dr. King shared his dream for freedom. At the end of the day, Bayard and Mr. Randolph took a moment to reflect on all that had happened. They knew the fight was not over, but the March on Washington marked a bold new step toward justice. Their protest shook the nation, and in the coming years, powerful people and forces would pass laws that were right and fair. Bayard Rustin was a troublemaker, and his dream of change had finally come true. And that's the story. He was born in 1912, and he passed on, let's see, posthumously, he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2013 by President Obama. I don't see when he passed in here. Anyway, that's that one. I wanted to share that because I just thought gorgeous art and such a great, great story of of that of something that someone that we don't often hear about. You don't hear that background and you don't know the details. And I think it's really wonderful that picture book, children's book has been done to, really share about who he was, what he did, and all that. I just think it's great. Yeah. And the art is evocative. Now, the next book I have for you is by the illustrator is Dawn Tate. And I'm going to go here. This is Dawn Tate, author and illustrator. Thank you for visiting my website, he says. I'm the author of numerous award-winning picture book biographies and illustrator of more than 80 critically acclaimed trade and educational books for youth. Some of the books I've illustrated include the forthcoming The Day Madir Voted. Madier. That's right. Madier is how you say it. It's a African term for mother, and written by Wade Hudson and Roto and Roy series books 1 and 2. Swish the slam dunking, alley ooping, high flying Harlem Globetrotters, and he's done. He did the book Poet, the remarkable story of George Moses Horton. It just happened when Bill Traylor started to draw. We read that one. And William Still and his Freedom Stories, the father of the Underground Railroad. I think I read that one also. Anyway, his artwork is quite amazing. All kinds of things. He's illustrated more than 80 trade. He's all kinds of things that he's done. Very, very different kind of, and I think you're going to love the artwork in his book. And it's written by Wade Hudson. And this was a digital archive of him. He was born in 1946. He's a children's book publisher and author. He was born on October 23rd in 1946 in Mansville, Louisiana, the first of 8 children. He grew up there and went to DeSoto High School, graduating in 1964, and he went on to attend Southern University in Baton Rouge. And he became involved in the civil rights movement in the mid-1960s. So he went on, he says that he has also worked as a newspaper reporter, a public relations specialist, and served as executive director of Pure Energy Music Publishing, a music publishing company he owned with his brothers. The company gave Madonna the hit song Holiday. Hudson earned a certificate from the Channel 13 film and television program. And it's just a fascinating that he's done so much. Celebrated author. His books have been published by his own company and by publishers such as Scholastic, Abingdon Press, and Children's Press. And some of the books authored by Hudson include Powerful Words, more than 200 years of extraordinary writing by African Americans, and Pass It On, African American Poetry for Children, Jamal's Busy Day, and Underground Railroad, which some of those I think I read. So the one I'm reading today is The Day Madir Voted. It's great. This one is based on the author's remembering about that day when, well, you'll see. The day Madir voted. Today was the day our mother had been looking forward to. She was wearing one of her best dresses, even though it was Tuesday. You sure look nice, I told her as she fixed our breakfast. Madier's going to vote. Madier's going to vote, my little brother, Charlie chanted. Finally, Madier said. Madier had explained to us that before today, many obstacles had been put up to prevent Black folks from voting. There were poll taxes and reading tests. There was even a test where people had to correctly guess the number of jelly beans in a jar. Black folks had to organize protests and take local court action to secure their rights as citizens. No more sitting in the back of the bus, no more segregated hotels, restaurants, or water fountains, and no more stopping us from voting. So now on this morning in 1969, our mother was going to vote for the very first time. Come on, y'all, Madare said. I'm so ready to vote. Charlie and I followed our mother out the front door. We were just as excited as she was. We rode the bus to City Hall. When we stepped off, Madare stopped for a moment, and we all stared at the old brick building. The flags of the United States of America and the state of Louisiana waved in the breeze. We had seen them many times before, but now that we'd have a say in our elections, they held a greater importance. Hurry up, Madare said as she led us up the steps. Charlie and I broke into a trot, trying to keep up. Inside, it felt just like being at church, with people greeting us enthusiastically. Good morning, Miss Clara. Beautiful day, isn't it? Mr. Taylor said. Absolutely beautiful, Madare replied. Happy to be here. Thought this day would never come, Mrs. Yarbrough said. A poll worker showed Madare where to sign her name. Then we stood on the side and watched while our mother waited in line to go into the voting booth. Some folks cast mean looks her way. We could tell she was feeling nervous when she began to fuss with her purse. The past was not easy to forget. Finally, she entered the booth and closed the curtain behind her. Moments later, Madare exited with the biggest, broadest smile on her face. Our mother had voted for the very first time in her life. Friends serenaded her with a chorus of amens. Amen, amen, amen. When we left the building, there was a bounce in Madare's every step. The sun seemed to take notice and shined its rays to spotlight her. She looked as if she could fly. What was it like in there? How did it feel to vote? Charlie asked. It was so quiet, and it felt so great to cast my vote, Madare said in a proud voice. It was good to see Minnie and Clyde and even old Miss Josephine in line, too. On the bus ride home, Madare told us today was a turning point. You know, one day Black people will be elected to political office, too, even here in Taylorville. Really? Charlie asked. You think so? I do, she said. And we wondered about that. Could we now imagine a different future? As the years passed, Madare rose early on every election day so she could vote. 1980, 1984, 1988, 1992, 1996, 2000 election day. On November 4th, 2008, Charlie and I drove her to the polls. Again, the air was full of excitement, and folks smiled at each other, shook hands, and embraced. I never thought it would happen, one man said. Never in a million years. Madare just smiled. Later that evening, we held our breath. When the newscaster announced, we have a projection. Barack Hussein Obama will be the next president of the United States, becoming the first African American person to hold the highest office in the country. Our mother's living room erupted in joy. This is the change all the struggles were for, Madare said. We did it. Charlie and I gave her a hug. We were there the first day our mother walked into a voting booth, pushed the past behind her, and allowed us to imagine a different future. Here's the author's note. The day Madare voted begins 4 years after the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was passed by the U.S. Congress to prohibit racial discrimination in voting. Even though the 15th Amendment, ratified in 1870, was meant to guarantee all men the right to vote, regardless of race or color, the Jim Crow laws were enacted in many states not only to prevent Black people from voting, but to mandate racial segregation in schools, transportation, restrooms, restaurants, and within neighborhoods. In 1920, when the 19th Amendment extended the right to vote to women, Black women were also found themselves thwarted by Jim Crow laws. During the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s, Black and white Americans fought to bring an end to these horrible Jim Crow laws, practices with protests, boycotts, and sit ins, and were often met with violence and intimidation. But their efforts resulted in change, including the passage of the Voting Rights Acts of 1965. The day my dear voted is loosely based on real events. It captures one family's journey to exercise a fundamental right of citizenship and spotlights the struggles waged to achieve it, a struggle that continues today. And the artist says, for the character of my dear, I channeled my own mother, Sharon Tate. When my mom voted, she took her boys along with her, and I remember the lively polling stations as I depicted them in this book, with neighbors laughing and chatting. I felt a deep sense of pride watching my mom fill out her ballot and then run it through the counting machine. During the presidential cam of 2008, my wife and I took our then 8-year-old son along with us as we campaigned for Barack Obama. I was working as a graphics reporter for a newspaper when Obama won the presidency. I wept right there in the newsroom, and I wasn't alone. Millions of African Americans shed tears of joy that night. I was happy not only because Barack Obama became the first Black president, but because my vote played a part in making that happen. Ah, wow. Yay. It is. So that was my second story that I had, and I have one more. But this one, these two just really reminded me about just no matter what side anybody's on, that right to vote is so important. And I'm just thinking, I'm like, what, you know, I think it's time to put out posts that say, hey, if you have space in your car and you're going to go vote, go pick up somebody who doesn't have a car. go, go, go help them get to places that they need to vote on those voting days. Help them get registered. I mean, good grief, with things the way they're going right now, and that have made it more difficult in big cities for people to get to voting and to get registered. It's crazy. So I think that that's going to be one of the things I plan to do is reach out and find those folks. Here in Washington, we have mail-in voting, but there's still those people in areas that want to go in, but just can't get in. It's going to be important. Important, yes. And so this last book that I have for tonight is the illustrator is Ashley Evans. Yes, everyone has the right to have their voice heard, no matter what that voice says. But what I love about these two books is the emphasis on, that nonviolent, that approach, that what just to push and push in a way that gets your point across, but for the right reasons and in the right way. So this book is by Ashley Evans. She is the illustrator. She's a professional children's book illustrator from Queens, New York, she says. She's work's been recognized and nominated for awards such as the ALCS Education Writers Award and Good Housekeeping Best Kids Book Award and the Florida Literacy Association Children's Book. She currently works out of North Carolina. And was raised in Queens, New York. Being raised in one of the most influential art capitals in the world is a big part of her identity and plays a large part in her role and perspective as an artist. Growing up, she loved visiting the Metropolitan Museum of Art and the Museum of Modern History and more. This is the homepage. What does it show? Yes. So here are some of the books that she has worked on. And like the one she did on Frida Kahlo. It's just amazing. This book is written by this is my home. Yes. Carol Boston Weatherford. Carol and Jeffrey Boston Weatherford are a mother and son author illustrator duo, but the son did not do the illustration on this. They have done a lot of books for uh, books that affirm a sense of justice and joy, and those are the kind of books that they write. And she writes. She's done Freedom in the Congo Square, Voices of Freedom, the book on Gordon Parks, which I have this book, The Photographer. Oh my gosh, it's such a good book. Um, Becoming Billie Holiday, the legendary Miss Lena Horne, a sinker, all these wonderful Jazz Baby. She has a book on Oprah and on Michelle Obama before John was a jazz giant. Just Juneteenth Jamboree, Sidewalk Chalk. This is a great book. Sidewalk Chalk. I love that book. So the book that I am reading tonight, let me get my keyboard out of the way, is here in that. And so you're going to need to see it. Overhead cam. It's right there. And I'm going to get this out of the way. Bring this back up. So you can see, you can see I still have my stuff left over from Lala on here, Linda. This book is called All Rise. And it is the story of Katanji Brown Jackson. Yes, our Supreme Court Justice, Katanji Brown Jackson. Get this back out of the way over here. The story of Katanji Brown Jackson. Whatever she did, wherever she was, Katanji Brown Jackson rose to the top. She rose on the hopes of grandparents who only finished grade school but instilled in Katanji's parents the value of learning. She rose from the dedication and determination of her parents who were the first in their families to go to college. She rose from her parents' pride in their heritage that inspired her African name, Katanji Onyeka, meaning lovely one. And on the birthday of Constance Baker Motley, the nation's first Black female federal judge, Katanji rose to breathe her first breath, take her first glimpse, and cry her first cry. Wearing afro puffs and an African dashiki, she rose from the civil rights movement that pushed open doors in the decades before her birth. The gains of the movement gave her parents hope that the way would be easier for Katanji and her brother Kataj. My parents set out to teach me that if I worked hard and believed in myself, I could do anything or be anything I wanted to be. Katanji rose from her family's dining room table where she sat coloring while her father studied his law school textbooks. She rose above her family's sadness for an uncle who was in jail on drug charges. She barely knew him beyond his occasional phone calls, but she learned that there was a right and a wrong side of the law. Katanji rose among her peers to be elected mayor of Palmetto Junior High School and three-time president of Miami Palmetto Senior High School. She rose above the slight when a teacher would not cast her as a family member in a play because she was not white. Katanji rose from acting and singing to conquering the debate stage, where she won national awards for public speaking. Under the wing of her debate coach, Miss Fran Berger, Katanji thrived. Ms. Berger believed in me, and in turn, I believed in myself. Katanji rose above the debate judges who mocked her African name. She responded by saying it clearly and writing it on the board. Ketanji. She rose above a guidance counselor's doubts that she could get into Harvard, whose campus she had first visited for speech competition. Instead of lowering her goals, Katanji vowed, "I'll show them." Katanji rose above her high school classmates to be named in the yearbook as most talented and most likely to succeed. In that same yearbook, she mapped out her future. I want to go into law and eventually have a judicial appointment. Once at Harvard, Katanji rose above lonely days as a first-year college student thanks to her mother's birthday greetings and a stranger's advice to persevere. With a diverse group of friends, she acted in plays, even writing one, and joined in student protests. But she always put her studies first. Katanji rose from a Harvard College honor graduate and a reporter for Time magazine to a Harvard law student and an editor of the school's prestigious law journal. She rose from the examples of service set by her mother, a school principal, her father, a school board lawyer, and her uncles, both police officers. She rose to clerk for judges and to work as a public defender, representing people who could not afford to pay for a lawyer. And finally, Katanji rose to reach her goal of becoming a federal judge. But she did not stop there. She rose to become an inspiration for her own two daughters. Her youngest, Layla, wrote a letter urging President Barack Obama to nominate her to the U.S. Supreme Court. But the timing was not right. Not yet. Then, 6 years later, President Joe Biden nominated Judge Katanji Brown Jackson as an Associate Justice, calling her one of the brightest legal minds. At the announcement, she rose to give thanks. My life has been blessed beyond measure, and I do know that one can only come this far by faith. In 4 days of Senate Judiciary Committee hearings, she rose above tough questions, kept her calm, and stood her ground. I have dedicated my career to ensuring that the words engraved on the front of the Supreme Court building, "Equal justice under law," are a reality and not just an idea. As Vice President Kamala Harris, the first woman, African American and Asian American in that position, presided over the Senate vote to confirm Jackson's nomination, she penned a note to her goddaughter. I sit here with a deep sense of pride and joy for this moment in our history and what I believe it will mean for you and all the current young and future leaders of our country. The next day on the White House lawn, the president, the vice president, and the newly confirmed nominee celebrated the victorious vote. President Biden introduced the then soon-to-be Associate Justice. In America, he said, everyone should be able to go as far as their hard work and God-given talent will take them. Then Katanji Brown Jackson rose, quoting Maya Angelou's famous poem, "Still I Rise." She framed the long journey to justice. It has taken 232 years and 115 prior appointments for a Black woman to be selected to serve on the Supreme Court of the United States. But we've made it. We've made it, all of us. For every brown-skinned girl and every Black woman who was ever overlooked or underestimated when opportunities were doled out, Katanji Brown Jackson rose. Constant Baker Motley, Shirley Chisholm, Maya Angelou, Mae Jemison. I am standing on the shoulders of my own role models, and our children are telling me that they see now more than ever that here in America, anything is possible. On June 30th, 2022, with her husband and daughter present, Katanji Brown Jackson rose to take her oaths. For President Biden, her swearing in signaled a new dawn. Katanji Brown Jackson's rise to the highest court in the land, he said, makes the sun shine on so many of us in a new way. Though just shy of 5 feet, Katanji Brown Jackson stands tall among American jurists and is herself a role model for children everywhere. And this is a letter by the author to her granddaughter and all of our daughters. Dear Kara, in the early 1980s, before your mother was born, I worked for the National Bar Association in Washington, D.C. I got to meet the Black lawyers behind the important causes and historic cases. Elaine Jones, the first woman to serve as Director Counsel of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. Fred Gray, who represented Rosa Parks during the Montgomery bus boycott. And Jane Bolin, who in 1939 became the first and was for 20 years the only Black female judge. Thurgood Marshall, a leading civil rights lawyer and the first Black associate justice, was still on the Supreme Court then. I sat in the chambers and cases were heard. In the 1980s, I did not dream of a Black woman on the highest court of the land, but in 2022, President Joe Biden announced the historic nomination with 2 brilliant Black women at his side, Vice President Kamala Harris and Judge Katanji Brown Jackson. The picture sent a powerful message. Black women had a seat at the table. The long overdue appointment confirmed that Black women had always known, we belong. I could not help but cry. There are still obstacles to overcome, doors to open, and hills to climb. Draw on the hope and strength of your ancestors. Your place is in the sun. Shine. All rise. The story of Katanji Brown Jackson. Ah. Oops, I went the wrong spot. Where am I going? Here we go. There we go. I was in the wrong spot there. Whew. I didn't know much about her, but I took an instant liking to her when you heard her speak. I know she's something else. She's got something about the way she speaks, and it's just one of those orator voices that you just, and it's so precise. It's amazing. It's amazing. So those are the stories I have for tonight. I felt like it was a good night for that with what's going on at the DNC tonight, the last night of that, with a historic event about to take place. Yeah, it's pretty exciting to see this, what's going on there. Anyway, and I love, if you've seen it on television, all the women dressed in white, and all the women, and a lot of men too, dressed in white in support of suffragettes. It's just awesome. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. So that's it for tonight. And it's just been you and me, Linda. I hope you like the stories. And much of what's actually important. Yeah, it really is. So I thank you for being here and always stopping in and listening. And thanks so much for coming to Lala's show the other night when I was on too. That was fun. And I had a good time. But tonight, it's time to head out and let you go on with your evening. So I don't know if you'll hear that. You'll hear the outro song. I probably won't hear it unless I turn something else on. I might. But until next time, Keep looking for the beauty hidden in plain sight. It's all around. But the first place you'll find it is when you go look in the mirror. And I'll see you on Sunday for story and art too.
In the heat of the night, we could get lost in all the lights and sounds. Ooh, feeling alright. We won't go home, we will just stay here downtown. There's not just stars on the boulevard, they're in the light in your eyes. Oh, we don't need no black cards, I just need you by my side. We could be shameless, famous, running cool, with a love that leaves us weightless. Ooh, drop dead gorgeous, wow. Ooh, you got me feeling starstruck too. We could be famous, we could be famous. You blow my mind, looking like a model, better than the usual. Yeah, you don't even try, not average or typical. I put you on a pedestal.